Moraine climbed down from Aldeeb's back. Carefully, she removed something from her pouch, unwrapped it. Rand glimpsed dark ivory, the Angry All. With Angry All in one hand and staff in the other, the Aes Sedai set her feet, facing the onrushing Trollocs and the Fade's black swords, raised her staff high, and stabbed it down into the earth. The ground rang like an iron kettle struck by a mallet. The hollow clang dwindled, faded away. For an instant then it was silent. Everything was silent. The wind died. The Trolloc cries stilled. Even their charge forward slowed and stopped. For a heartbeat, everything waited. Slowly, the dull ringing returned, changing to a low rumble, growing until the earth moaned.
Hello, I'm Will, and this is my wife, Dallas.
Hi!
And this is Not the Beginning, a podcast where a longtime Wheel of Time fan and someone who's never read the series before read through each of the 14 books in this very long series. A warning. This podcast may not be suitable for younger audiences and will contain spoilers. If you've not read Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World, please proceed with caution.
On this episode of Not the Beginning, we will be diving in and discussing chapters 17 through 21 of The Eye of the World. I have not read past chapter 21, and Will is going to do his best not to bring in anything from the rest of The Eye of the World or the other 13 books during our discussion. So as long as you've read through chapter 21, you should be good. If you haven't, I recommend pausing here and going and reading them.
All right, last episode we ended off with Nynaeve confronting Moraine in the kind of common room of the Stag and the Lion. This section, after that confrontation, Tom starts performing for the inn. There's dancing. Rand ends up dancing with Nynaeve, Moraine, and Egwene, and a local girl who seems to be putting a little bit of moves on him. After dancing, Rand comes face to face with a Myrddraal, who creepily tells him that he belongs to the Great Lord of the Dark, before the Myrddraal just nopes out of there. Right after that, Lan kind of jumps down the stairs, pulls his sword out. It's like, where's the Fade? The Myrddraal's appearance prompts the group to leave the inn in a rush. They're on their way out of Baerlon. On their way out, Lan ends up bribing a gate guard to raise the gate and let them out. But before that can happen, they're interrupted by White Cloaks, including Mr. Bornhald, or who Rand ran into last time. Bornhald recognizes Rand, calls the group's dark friends, and tries to take them in. However, Moraine's having none of it, makes her voice appear as though it's coming from everywhere, appears to grow larger than the town walls, and creates a big distraction for them to escape. When they're about a couple hours outside of Baerlon, they notice that there's fire in the city. Moraine reveals that it's almost certainly the inn and that she's going to send money back to make sure that the inn can rebuild. While traveling to the next city on their trip, Whitebridge, Lan reveals that they're being followed by a few Myrddraal and a whole bunch of Trollocs. Those Trollocs are to their south and the west. They end up having to go north, but not before Moraine refuses Lan's offer of going someplace where the Trollocs won't follow. Eventually, though, they are forced to come face to face with the Myrddraal and some Trollocs. Lan and the boys charge at them, all giving war cries. Mat's is in a different language, which we learn later is the Old Tongue. After a very short but rather close battle, the group is almost taken by several hundred Trollocs, but Moraine does some tricks with the One Power, causing an earthquake and raising a wall of fire. After this, she's exhausted, and they end up having to go to the place Lan said that they wouldn't follow, Aridhall, or, as it's now known, Shadar Logoth. There, they set up camp in an abandoned building. The whole city is abandoned. And the boys are idiots and decide to go exploring the city, which is much, much larger than Baerlon. While exploring, they come across a man who calls himself Mordeth. Mordeth wants them to help transport some treasure that he's found, taking them to a chamber filled with treasure, gold, gems, fancy weapons, and the like. While there, they tell Mordeth that they're not alone. They're traveling with Egwene and Tom and Lan and Nynaeve, and Mordeth gets pissed about that. Rand realizes Mordeth doesn't have a shadow, which triggers Mordeth to balloon in size and try and attack the boys. Running away, they get back to where they've set up camp, and Moraine tells them a story of Aridhall and how it became Shadar Logoth. At the end of this story, Lan appears, he had been searching for the boys, and tells them the Trollocs actually did enter the city, driven by the Myrddraal. They need to leave now and head for the river, which Trollocs and Myrddraal can't cross because they can't swim. While on the way out of the city, though, they end up getting separated by the evil of Shadar Logoth, the mist, fog, Mashadar. This causes them to split up into about 3 groups. We end up realizing that Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve are one group, Rand, Mat, Tom are another, and Perrin and Egwene are off kind of on their own. Rand, Matt, and Tom end up boarding a ship called the Spray, whose captain is Bail Domon. They have Trollocs follow them, and they manage to fight the Trollocs off. And talking to the captain, Bail Domon, they give their coins, their silver coins that Moraine gave them in passage. Meanwhile, Perrin gets separated at the same time and is driven into a river. The Trollocs chase him into the river, and he kind of washes up ashore a little while later. And we realize that the next morning, Nynaeve escaped because the Trollocs weren't looking for her. They were really only looking for Rand, Matt, and Perrin. And she ends up sneaking up and eavesdropping on a conversation between Moraine and Lan. Moraine realizes after a little bit that Nynaeve is there, saying that a woman who can channel can never truly hide from another woman who can channel. And Moraine tells Nynaeve that Nynaeve herself can channel. She explains how women who don't get a handle on their ability, about 3/4 of them end up dying. Nynaeve was very lucky not to. We end off with Nynaeve, Lan, and Moraine setting off to find one of the boys who went south. At this point that we realize that the coins that Moraine gave the boys back in Emmons Field are actually ways for her to track them. So, a whole lot of stuff happens here.
A whole lot of stuff. So much so that when I was reading your recap, I forgot entirely about the dancing at the inn. So it took me a little bit longer to get through this section because so much happened. And the dancing at the inn was one of my favorite parts. So
it's a fun part.
It's a fun part.
There's like a random town girl who's like, "Hey, Rand, what's up?"
Yeah, she like...
But with a wink.
Yeah, she gives him a subtle, or like a shy smile, and then a wink that is not so shy.
I don't understand how a wink can specifically not be shy.
Well, that's because you don't wink at people.
I don't wink at people.
Yeah, so there's some dancing at the inn, and Rand ends up dancing with Nynaeve and Moraine, and is terrible at it. And Nynaeve ends up kind of ragging on him.
Yeah, she comments on it.
She's like, "I thought you were supposed to be a good dancer," and he's just like stumbling over his feet.
He's like,
and then
maybe I'd be a good dancer if I weren't dancing with Mom and Merlin.
And then he gets to dance with Egwene, and he's excited until he remembers that they're fighting. And I'm just like, get your shit together.
Yeah.
Like, get it together, guys.
They do not have it together, even in the slightest.
No,
they start to get it together a little bit when like all of the shit starts going down.
Once the shit starts going down, Rand ends up apologizing, which is like, okay, finally. Like, stop pulling this, like, well, if you're not going to apologize, I'm not going to apologize. Because it's just like an endless circle of nonsense. So, there's some dancing. There's a creepy guy with a scar face that's kind of stalking them at the inn.
Yeah, he's just watching.
And we find out that he's, I guess, like a hired stalker from the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
But something tells me that there's more to him.
I honestly don't remember. Like, I thought I did reading through it, and then I just have no recollection of if that person comes back or if they're important.
Yeah, it feels like he's more important.
I mean, dudes with scars watching you in an inn tend to be important in fantasy.
Right. Like, anytime a character is mentioned to have a big old scar running across their face, then, like, they're important.
Probably.
Especially because I think Rand says something about Lan not giving enough information about him. Lan's just like, oh, he's just like a hired stalker.
Yeah, that's what has me thinking that he isn't important, because not only does Lan just like brush it off, but Lan is just like, no, he's not important. He's not just like...
But Rand says something about like, but it seems like he's hiding something. Which could just be that Rand... That it is Lan, and he tends to hide things. And it could just be Rand not trusting Lan.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm not really sure. I feel like Scarface is going to come back.
Probably. But I'm just not certain.
Or the only thing, or like it was Scarface that let the White Cloaks know that they were heading out.
Maybe
that's like the bigger, like, I just feel like it was he played a bigger part in the story, and so maybe it was...
Could be. I mean,
Scarface.
the inn burns down. I'm not sure that the scar-faced man wasn't just a dark friend.
Oh.
They said that he was a spy for the White Cloaks, but...
Spy, that's the word I was trying to find.
You forgot the word spy?
Look, my grasp on the English language is loose at best.
But yes, he could be a dark friend, because after noticing that, things get escalated real quick.
Yeah.
Because Rand goes downstairs to like get a glass of milk before bed when everybody's
so
going
wholesome.
to sleep. Yeah, Rand's just being a wholesome kid, and he goes down and gets some milk, and then like bam, it's a murder roll.
It's like he here I'm just like trying to go get my warm milk before I go to sleep, and then bam, here's this evil thing.
Yep. And Myrtle are creepy.
Yeah.
Like slug-like face, no eyes, creepy teeth.
I mean,
real tall.
My what the fuck moment wasn't as big with the Myrddraal as it was with Mordeth later.
Well, yes, Mordeth is a whole thing.
And that was like, I literally just wrote in the margins of the book, like, what the actual fuck?
Yes. Yeah, this, some of the horror elements really get played up here.
Yeah.
Between, because, like, just like his description of Rand's reaction to the Myrddraal is, like, visceral horror.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my god, this thing is the worst thing I have ever seen. And, like, I get it, Myrddraal are creepy, but, like, how is it? I mean, there's clearly magic going on.
Right.
But, like, are they that, like, they just don't have eyes, and they're real pale. You shouldn't have that reaction to it.
Unless it was just way creepier than we picture in our heads. Well, and I say we picture, I really mean I picture, because you can't picture things.
Visualize anything. Which is weird for this. Like, why do I like this series so much? It's filled with imagery.
Yeah.
Like, 90% of the text is imagery.
Yep.
But yeah, so they run into a Myrddraal and then they have to run because Lan like hops down the stairs.
I'm surprised it took Lan so long because they were like, the end's not that big.
No, I think what it might be is we touch on this a little bit later from a different angle with Moraine and Nynaeve. Like, clearly that, like, extra sense that they have is literally, it's not like an alarm, it's literally just an extra sense. So if you're not paying attention to it, you may not realize it.
That's fair. That would make sense.
There's a spy, this random other woman showed up and is arguing with Moraine, because, like, Nynaeve's just got real focus on arguing with Moraine.
Yeah. So I guess that's fair. The way it had been described before, it seemed like it would be like an alarm.
Yeah.
Like a triggered response.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of this part of the book is very early. It establishes that there are a lot of myths, often conflicting myths about what Aes Sedai are, and then this part of the book is scaling back what those myths are until you actually have what an Aes Sedai can do.
Yeah, and in that way, like, we get a better picture of warders too. Because if people don't know that much about Aes Sedai, they know like half the information when it comes to warders.
Right, because what are you going to pay attention? Very powerful magic women, or they're like buff friends wielding sticks?
I mean, their buff friends are hot, but...
Fair. But I'm more interested in the fireball wielding women.
Well, that's because you're a Moraine simp.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
He is a Moraine simp. I think I'm becoming a Lan simp.
That's a totally fair target for simpery, whatever that form of that word is.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick a book boyfriend from this book, it would be Lan.
It would be Lan, okay. That's fair. Lan is like a fully grown human and not a boy or like a weird bard.
Right. I imagine Tom being like this. I don't know if this is an accurate picture of Tom, but I get like gray hair, kind of potbelly vibes from Tom.
He definitely doesn't have a potbelly.
But like, he has a dad bod. I have like a dad bod image of Tom.
He has like an older gymnast's build because like he like does like flips and tricks and shit. You're not gonna be.
He doesn't have a six pack though.
No, but he's clearly skilled at using his body.
You can be skilled at using your body and not be super muscular and you can still have a dad bod.
Yes, I just don't think Tom does.
I just picture gray old.
Tom travels too much. Tom has to work for his food way too much for that.
I don't know.
Like everywhere he goes, he's like,
This is just the picture I have in my brain.
Can I interest you in, instead of paying for food and lodging, can I work for food and lodging? Tom saves his money. Tom is real frugal.
That's fair. I'm just saying, this is the picture I had in my brain. Just like the picture I have in my brain for Lan is Geralt of Rivia.
Yes.
Whereas you, the quote-unquote picture in your brain for Lan is kind of like samurai-y.
Yeah.
Which is two completely different pictures. Both are valid.
I mean, they're not that different. They're both stereotypical stoic warriors.
Imagine how pretty Moraine and Lan would be.
Very, very pretty.
Henry Cavill and
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund Pike. both two very pretty people.
Yes. Not that, I mean, again, the guy they cast for Land is...
Also hot, because I saw that picture, you showed me the clip today, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can dig it.
Yeah, they got it.
They got it. He's hot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody in the series will be as well cast as Moraine, because despite the, like, height issues, which, like, is honestly not even a problem, Rosamund Pike is Moraine.
Yeah, she's got the vibes.
She really does. It's nuts.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great.
I'm so excited.
I'm really anxious to see how, honestly, I think of the three boys, Rand will be the hardest to play, but Matt will be the hardest to get right.
I have just like conflicting feelings about Rand, and I think it might just be that I'm tired of being in his head. So
Fortunately, we're
not anymore. We get a full chapter of Nynaeve, which is just delightful because I'm just tired of being in Rand's head. It's not like I dislike Rand. It's just I'm used to reading books that flip POV more frequently.
Yeah.
Like I don't like head hopping because that just gets like super confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But like very clearly delineated scenes in which it's a different POV character.
Yeah.
And it just took so long to get there. Like, I'm at like 260 pages in. And I'm a third of the way in.
Yeah, and we've not really left Rand.
Until, like...
the very end.
Very end.
Yeah,
you get, like,
they get separated.
They get separated, and you get, like, a very quick Perrin scene, which was fun. I like Perrin a little bit more.
Yeah, it gives Perrin a lot more depth.
Yeah, and then we get like a whole chapter of Nynaeve. Yeah. And her POV is just very practical.
Yeah, and she's way more practical than she appears to act.
She's very self-aware. I think that's where the practicality comes in. Is that like she may not be actually practical, but she's self-aware. Which is not necessarily something that Rand's point of view would let you think about her. But now that I've read it, I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Actually, she's super self-aware.
You saying that now just gave me a thought. In a lot of ways, I feel like Nynaeve is almost the inverse of Perrin. Right? Where people assume Perrin doesn't have a whole lot going on upstairs because he, like, is methodical and deliberate. Mm-hmm. But he thinks about a lot of things, right? Like, he's got a lot of thoughts going on. He just doesn't always act on them. Where Nynaeve seems really impulsive, right? Like, she just, like, got fed up with the women's circle taking their time, or with the village council taking their time, and just, like, left the two rivers to follow Moraine and the rest of the Emmons Fielders. But you get in her head and you realize she's not necessarily impulsive. She just isn't sharing her thought process.
She also just makes decisions very quickly. So it's not like she's impulsive. She just, the speed at which she thinks through a decision completely and then makes it is a lot faster than the comparison that you made, which is Perrin, which people think he's simple and people think he might be a little bit dumb because he overthinks. He just does that at a slightly slower pace and doesn't necessarily act on those thoughts.
Right.
Like, Perrin is very much... I call him simple-minded, but that's not because I think he's dumb. I don't think he's dumb. I think
Perrin's down to earth.
He's down to earth. He has he looks at things more simply and thinks them through. And he tries to boil things down to the bare bones. Yeah. Because that's what... Everyone needs someone who like, he's the grounding force in the party.
Yeah. Matt is comic relief. Perrin is the people who keeps everybody on Earth.
Yeah. You need, like, that scene in Parks and Rec where Chris is all, like, upset. And so April starts listing things that's going to bring you down. And then Andy's like, I'll list things that bring you up. And, like, it evens you out. Matt is Andy. Perrin is April? But not really. But
Perrin is a much nicer and friendlier person than April Ludgate.
Yes. But in that sense, it's just, like, Matt's, like, hyping everybody up. And Perrin's like, I just want to go home. Yeah. So it equals everyone out.
Yeah. It's kind of weird we have those two, and then, like, Rand is just, like, in the middle. Rand is down for some mischief, as we saw in last section, where he was just like, ha ha, fuck you, White Cloaks. But then he's also, like, he's kind of on Perrin's side in Shadar Logoth, where Matt is like, let's go exploring. He gets won over eventually, but Rand is just like, we shouldn't do this, and if we do, we should tell someone.
And then Matt's just like, I'm gonna go. And then isn't it Perrin that's like, well, we can't leave him?
Yeah, I think it's Perrin.
I think it's Perrin.
Honestly, it wouldn't be out of character for either of them.
No, but Matt got hit with the dumb stick real hard.
No. Matt, at this point in the series, just is dumb.
It's
like last time, right? Like, you can't be hit with the dumb stick if you are dumb.
I think, honestly, maybe he is the dumb stick.
Maybe, because a lot of times Rand is dumb.
Like,
Matt's directly involved.
Right, because they go and...
Poor Matrim.
Oh, Matt. He goes and he's like, let's go explore this city. And then they encounter this guy named Mordeth.
Let's get back to Mordeth, because they have to leave the city first. They encounter some White Cloaks on the way out, who are like...
The first time Rand got hit with the dumb stick.
Yes. This time he didn't get hit with the dumb stick. He's trying to hide, but then Bornhold, the White Cloak from earlier, is just like, hello, you're a dark friend. I'm going to bring you all in and then question you. And there's like some real sinister implications when it comes to being questioned by White Cloaks.
Yeah.
Like they're going to torture you.
There's torture involved.
There's very heavily
like whether you give
torture.
information, it's like you could be completely loose-lipped from the start and they're still going to torture you is the vibes I get.
Right. They're just going to torture you until you tell them what they want to hear.
It's kind of
Fortunately,
Ramsay Bolton vibes.
Yeah. Fortunately, though, Moraine shows them all up and is like, I am everywhere. And then she creates an illusion to make her seem taller than the city walls, which is big.
Yeah.
Like, city walls are not short things. And then after that, she just like, Egwene is like, that was awesome. You were so tall. And Moraine's just like...
But was I?
Was I, though?
Which is just like, alright, fuck you, Moraine. Like...
Yeah, Moraine is... As much as I love her, Moraine is, for this bit, at her shittiest.
Yeah. It's like, you were so excited about your fog thing when you were talking to Lan. Just let yourself be excited around Egwene. Like...
But now Nynaeve is here.
Yeah... And they're kind of in a battle for Egwene right now.
Yeah, because Egwene has this, like, half braid.
Yeah, she's got, like, this hat. She's got, like, a ponytail going on,
yeah.
I think is what it is. Like...
Yeah, she's got, like, her hair tied up in a ribbon or something.
Yeah, but it's not, like, a full braid, so it's, like, this halfway between... Because Egwene just gets, like, her entire personality wrapped up into whatever strong woman is around her at the time.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's not healthy.
No.
If this was happening with whatever guy she was dating at the time, everyone would be like, what the fuck, Egwene? And
right.
I feel like it's not much better to get your entire personality wrapped up in whatever strong person is around you.
No.
Like...
Especially not, like Nynaeve would be fine. I mean, like, Nynaeve's whole thing is doing her, like, Nynaeve's just going to be her best self. Or not her best self, but she's going to do it anyway. But Moraine is a lot more calculating.
What I want for Egwene is to have her own personality. Yeah. And what I don't want, especially, is that, like, because Rand is very much like, the reason they got in the fight is he's like, you're wrapping your personality up in one of these two women. That's not cool. If she gets that through her head, I'm just afraid she's going to latch on to Rand, and then it's just, like, not going to be much better. It's like...
Yeah.
It's why just, like, I don't even know that I actually ship Rand and Egwene, as much as I just want them to figure their shit out, because now I just want the storyline to be completed.
That's fair.
Like, shit or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Like...
On Rand and Egwene, they get a little bit friendlier towards each other. Not, I said that in a way that seemed to imply more. They're just running for their lives. But that kind of resolves some of the tension where Rand is like, hey, I was stupid. And, you know. And
she's like, yep, and I'm terrified now. Yeah. So I kind of see your point.
Right. Because they're running from Trollocs. They don't get very far outside of Barillon before Landis like, hey, by the way, we're being chased by several hundred Trollocs and some Murdral.
And then he goes off and...
He, like, scouts.
He scouts. And when he leaves, Moraine seems very nervous and then calls him the last Lord of the Seven Towers. And I'm not really sure what that means.
You'll find out.
That was almost
a read and find out, but it was not quite.
Which I think that would put it... I don't even remember what our counter is now.
Oof, I have no idea.
We'd have to go back and listen.
You'll have to go back and listen. But it wasn't a full one, so it doesn't... we're
that
still at that
count.
number.
We still are. But yeah. And then Nynaeve uses that one later, too.
Does she?
Yeah.
She probably... I mean, she's
heard it.
She's repeating it.
And repeating it. Yeah, it just wasn't interesting. Like, you're saying something you don't mean to try to piss them off in a way.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Lan... we will get to Lan and Nynaeve's interactions because it's also interesting.
Yeah.
But there's two really big events before we even get to any of the things we put off, which are that they fight some Trollocs directly. They ride into battle against a group of Trollocs and a Murdral.
And they all kind of shout war cries, which is kind of... It's just, like, listening to Rand talk about it is kind of funny. Because Lan obviously does. And so Perrin's just like, well, I'm gonna scream something too.
Rand goes first, and Perrin follows Rand.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, like, I get... Like,
Rand
Rand gets swept up in things real easily. So,
yeah,
in
he
a
also
sense,
kind of gets his personality wrapped up in whatever.
Yeah, but he gets his personality swept up in events, not in people.
Both are bad.
Both are... They're not good. They're different, though.
They're different.
And Perrin just, like, yells it because for all he knows, he's just gonna go die. But then Matt yells something, and it's not in English.
And when they're talking about it later, Egwene's like, in the moment, I understood what you were saying, but now I don't. Like, what was that?
Yeah. So this is what Matt yells was in the old tongue.
When they were talking about it, Moraine kind of just, like, slides into the conversation.
Yeah, we get a little bit of story time with Moraine.
A little bit of Moraine story time. There's, like, several Moraine story times happening in this section.
None of them are as long, which is nice. She gets better at getting to the point.
Yep.
Because now they're traveling with Tom. Tom's the storyteller. Moraine's just here to tell them things.
Impart information.
Right.
But, so... She's like, yes, it was the Manetheren war cry, and Matt's like, but I've never heard that before, and so it's kind of like the old blood still sings,
right,
kind of thing, which is a little creepy.
Yeah.
Like, you've never heard this before, yet somehow in the heat of battle, your ancestors, it's not like, it's like habit, but it's weird that
like
it's
something
words.
Right, so they think that Matt was maybe reborn. Somebody,
but then
like
of course Tom yells
reborn.
at them for saying that because being reborn means a whole lot more than what they think it does.
Yeah,
which also makes me think that Tom knows more, has seen some shit.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because, like,
I mean, clearly, at least
he's not just a bard.
No, because again, okay. So this is another thing during the fight. Back when we were at the Tarn Ferry,
he does that like knife trick.
He does a knife trick. We learn here that's not just for show. He takes out several Trollocs.
I think that's the second Trolloc fight.
Oh, that's the one. That's when they're escaping Shadow Logoth.
Yeah.
But later, we can do this now. Later, he kills two Trollocs just casually by throwing knives.
Yeah.
Like hits him in the face, in the eye, and causes one of them to run and tags it while it's running. Dude's good at throwing knives. And he just brings them out of nowhere. He's like, suddenly I have knives and now you're dead.
Yeah. He is not just a bard.
Perhaps not.
Because, I could even, if he had just, thrown knives like that at a target, I would have been like, okay, that's a Ren Fair skill.
Yeah.
He's a Ren Fair, I'm thinking Ren Fair entertainer. There's a sword swallower at Ren Fair. There's knife throwing.
But no, he can hit moving targets with precision.
Yeah, and he knows more than he lets on.
So there's this talk about Matt being reborn. They're talking about somebody being reborn, aren't they? Someone's been reborn.
Well, that's why Moraine took them.
Right.
Essentially.
So this is maybe a little bit of a hint that maybe it could be Matt.
Could be.
We've been living in Rand's head, but clearly that's not necessarily what's going to happen here, because now we've started to explore other possibilities, and Matt has something very weird happening with.
Because he's able to just recite this war cry that he's not familiar with.
In a long dead language.
Right. Sketchy.
But yeah, so after they fight some Trollocs and shout in other languages,
then they get to shatter Logoth.
Oh, well, not quite then. Then Moraine causes an earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they kill these Trollocs and then they turn around and there's several hundred Trollocs just a couple hundred feet away, and Moraine causes the earth to shake and raises a big wall of fire. Which is
badass.
Yeah.
And also kind of wipes her out.
Yep.
And then Lan has to catch her. And this is one, I think this is I just love Lan and Moraine, okay? But so there's this moment where Lan helps her onto her horse, and just the harshness in his voice at odds with the gentle way he lifted the Aes Sedai into her saddle. It's aw. They're in a huge battle, and she just killed a bunch of stuff, and he just killed a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And they gotta get going, but aw.
Yep.
They're sweet with each other, and
yes.
they've got this emotional bond that I just really enjoy reading.
Yeah.
And at some point, I want to read that emotional bond from one of their heads.
Okay. I don't remember very many chapters in either of their perspectives. It might happen. I'm not sure. Her doing all this work and basically passing out does do one other thing, which it kind of eases the relationship between her and Nynaeve, because she's wiped out, and eventually when they set up camp in Shadow Logoth, where they've been driven by these Trollocs, she's like, hey, do you have tea that will help me sleep?
Yeah, there's this moment of bonding between them, which gets destroyed later. But there's this moment of bonding between them where Nynaeve's I'm gonna help you. And Lan's kind of trying to stop her, but not in the way that Nynaeve thinks he's trying to stop her. Lan's trying to just be it doesn't you don't need to help her, don't waste your herbs.
Yeah.
Whereas Nynaeve's thinking he's, like, trying to prevent Nynaeve from poisoning Moraine. Which,
No.
like...
If we know two
If
things...
that's where your brain's going, more Nynaeve, maybe Lan has a point.
If we know 3 things about Nynaeve, it's that she really likes tugging on her braid. She is pretty good at sneakery and really exists to heal people.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things about her.
Those are her 3 tenets of her personality.
Yes. Like, we learn a little bit more later. I mean, it's a 14-book series. How are you going to have a character around for 14 books and not learn more about them?
And not have character growth.
Right. But right now, those are the 3 things about her.
Right. And so, yeah, they do have this moment of bonding where Nynaeve tries to help Moraine, and Moraine's like, I don't need your help in that way. Like, I just need to sleep. But... can you give me something to get me to go to sleep? Because that's all I need to help. And then she kind of tells Nynaeve that her healing skills are useful. Like, more useful than she thought. Which I think, like, that's important in the phrasing. When it comes to their relationship, it's that Moraine's not just giving Nynaeve a compliment. She's also admitting, not fault, but, like, admitting that she was wrong.
She's admitting fault as much as Moraine can possibly admit fault.
Even if she's, like, doing it facetiously, Nynaeve might not necessarily realize that and just take it anyway.
Right.
Like, she's admitting, like, I was wrong, you are helpful.
Yeah.
Which is the way to kind of get Nynaeve to hear a compliment, is to admit fault or tell her, like, I was wrong, here's my compliment now.
Yeah.
Because she's very stubborn.
So stubborn. Everybody in the 2 Rivers is stubborn.
Yeah.
There's a saying. They have a saying about it. It's I don't remember what the saying is, but they bring it up multiple times. Like, arguing with 2 Rivers people is like arguing with rocks. Arguing with Lan's face. Anyway.
Stone face.
Meanwhile, now we're going to get to Mordeth. Meanwhile, the boys are dumb.
No.
TM.
No. Matt is dumb.
No, they're all dumb. Matt is the dumbest. They're all dumb.
Okay, so they meet this guy named Mordeth. His name, you said it out loud.
His
and it
name
clicked.
is
literally more death. And then Mordeth wants them to go to someplace else. He wants them to go to a secondary location. And if you've seen the most recent John Mulaney stand-up, you should know that you should never go to a secondary location. These boys need some street smarts with Detective J.J. Bittenbinder. Because you never go to a secondary location. Mordeth literally lured these boys like someone would lure a child with candy.
Yeah.
He's just like, I have some treasure. Would you like it? Can you help me carry it?
It's just so
It's like,
dumb.
do you want to go to this dark, dark cave?
Yeah. In their defense, on the street smarts front, this is like the 2nd street they've ever been on. So they come from Emmons Field, where there's like an inn.
I'm just saying, Tam would be really disappointed.
Tam would be very disappointed in Rand for many reasons. Actually, you know what? No, Tam would not be disappointed in Rand. Tam would be an understanding father.
He would be like, boy, you got hit with the dumb stick.
I mean, yeah, he would tell Rand that he's an idiot, but he wouldn't be disappointed. Tam is a good dad. Tam is a good dad.
You can be a good parent and be disappointed. I feel like that's one of the tenets of being a good parent, is not being angry. Just that, like, I'm not angry with you. I'm just disappointed.
Maybe.
That's Tam.
Yeah, I guess that's Tam. Because, yeah, they're real dumb. They get lured by treasure.
They get lured by treasure. And so they go down to this, like, dark cave. And I feel like Rand and Perrin are like, I don't necessarily think this is a good idea, but I've already been hoodwinked by Matt into going on this adventure, so I might as well see it through. So, like, in this moment, they aren't dumb. They already accomplished their dumb by going along with Matt to begin with.
Yeah.
Matt is now leading this adventure, so it doesn't matter what they do now. It's not any further dumbassery on their part because Matt is just the dumb sick. So they go down there, and Matt immediately is like just diving into piles of treasure,
just
like it's
Scrooge
like
McDuck.
Scrooge McDuck, just like diving in and swimming into a pile of gold. And Rand finally starts thinking, and is like, "You don't have a shadow."
Yeah, and boy, does Mordeth not like people knowing that he doesn't have a shadow, because he freaks out, balloons himself up. Like, he, like, blows himself up like a balloon and attacks them. And they get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. Although Matt doesn't want to. He's still trying to grab pieces of treasure. And it's just like, it reminds me of that scene in The Mummy. It's just like, there's like a wall heading down. And like, so they're trying to grab treasure and then they just gotta be like, no, you gotta go.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
And yeah, Matt reminds me of that other guy in The Mummy where he's like prying a scarab beetle off the wall and then ends up getting like eaten by a bunch of scarab beetles.
Karma. I've seen The Mummy, but I have very little recollection.
It's one of my favorite movies, and then I made him watch it when we first started dating, and he completely ripped it to shreds. It was not a good time.
Don't have me watch bad movies if you don't want me ripping them to shreds. I rip bad movies I like to shreds.
Brendan Fraser is a national treasure, okay?
I can maybe agree with that. That doesn't mean The Mummy is a good movie. It can be fun. Fun and bad are independent of each other.
It's better than Dune.
It's way better than Dune, but I love Dune.
Dune is the worst.
The 1984 Dune. Not the one that is about to come out.
With Timothée Chalamet, when I'm very excited for that one. So they get back to camp, and Moraine's like, what the fuck? You left without telling Mom.
Yep. Lan has gone off to find them.
Yep. And it's honestly, like, I feel like in that moment, it wouldn't have been out of place for Moraine to go, it's a good thing you got back before Dad did, because you don't want Dad to find you.
Yes, and also, no, I'd much rather deal with angry Lan than angry Moraine. Moraine literally just caused an earthquake. I'd rather deal with Man with Stick, even if Man with Stick is very skilled with the stick.
Counterpoint, though. If there was a time to piss Moraine off, right after she completely depleted her energy stores is the time to do it.
That's fair.
Lan seems to never have his energy stores depleted.
No, it is kind of
we haven't seen him tired yet. Yeah, I'm also waiting for that. I'm waiting for a Lan needs help moment.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's like a warder thing, or like clearly Lan has seen some shit. I'm wondering if it's a factor of him being a warder or if it's a factor of him just being experienced.
No, I think it could be that he just knows his limits and knows not to get near them, whereas Moraine is just like...
Moraine's constantly pushing her limits.
She is, and that's why Lan is very much like, take a nap.
Yeah.
Go to this place. So, when you were going through the recap, it made me think of it. The place that Lan initially suggested where he knew the Trollocs wouldn't go, that is Shadow Mordath.
Shadow Logoth.
Logoth, yeah.
Yeah.
Shadow Mordath, whatever.
Yeah, when the boys get back, we get a little bit of the history of Shadow Logoth, formerly known as Eredhol.
Yes, please.
Do you need an explainer on that?
I need like a spark notes of that.
Sure. So Eredhol used to be a big city. Mm-hmm. Eventually, a man named Mordath showed up and kind of like, that one guy in the Lord of the Rings who like talks in the king's ear and causes the king to be bad.
I'm going to go ahead and say no because I don't remember any of those movies.
Okay. So Mordath talks to the king and gets the king to just kind of be evil, but evil in a different way. This city is trying to defend itself from the Dark One and Trollocs. And so what he gets the king to do is be super insular. Don't trust anyone.
Okay.
And eventually this conditions in the city get so bad that it just kind of like destroys itself, falls apart. And eventually a large force of Trollocs invades. But what happened when scouts from a nearby army got sent in, it was just dead Trollocs and Murtrol with writing on the wall smeared in blood. And then the next day when they sent more scouts in, it was all gone.
Yikes.
Big yikes. And so Mordath is hanging out, trying to... one of the things she says is Mordath is trying to like steal a body. She asks the boys, did you take anything from him? Did you go anywhere? Like, she asks them a bunch of questions that are all like...
Did he touch you? Did you take anything from him? And...
Did you agree to do anything for him?
Did you agree to do anything? And did you go anywhere? Did he take you to...
Like outside the city.
Outside the city. Yeah. Not just to the secondary location of treasure, but like did you go outside the city? And they didn't, sort of, because Matt picked up a dagger.
Yep.
And I read that passage like 3 times, and I can't find if he dropped it or not.
This is a read and find out, for sure.
Because I'm going to assume that they were in a treasure-filled room, that's not just like a plain old, like, it's not like a dinner knife. Like, It's a dagger.
I mean, if it is a dinner knives can be treasure. They can be worth a lot of money if they're made out of gold.
But he picked up like a dagger, and I'm just going to go ahead and assume that it's probably the ruby dagger.
Yep. That's yeah, okay.
Which... is like, okay, so if he dropped it, was that just a hint that he was going to be dumb and go after treasure? Or did he keep this thing and then lie to Moraine? And then now he's on a boat.
Well, did he lie to Moraine?
They said that they didn't take anything from him.
Did he take the dagger from Mordeth? Or did he just take the dagger?
He took the dagger from a giant pile of treasure that Mordeth's like, hey, help me move.
Yeah.
So it's assumed...
But Mordeth didn't give it to him.
That's just my question, though. Like, can Mordeth get out now? Like, does all 4 things need to be true? Do they need to have Mordeth touch them, give them something, have them agree to do a task, and then lead them outside of the city? Or does just one of them? Like, is it 100% or what?
We'll find out.
Level?
Is Rand now traveling with a
Mordeth?
incarnation of human evil?
Yeah.
Who's? I mean, it's different than the Dark One. It's
Matt's been super quiet since they got out of Shadow Logoth, which is uncharacteristic.
It is. He hasn't had much time to speak. I guess they have.
But I almost forgot. I almost forgot Matt was even with Rand until he got kind of lost in the narrative. I don't know if that was on purpose or if that was just it's a 14-book series and it's the first book in the series, and like no matter how good of an author you are, your first book
you're gonna forget some stuff.
You're gonna and no matter how good your editor is, information's going to get lost in the narrative. So like, was he just lost in the narrative, or is it on purpose that Matt kind of got lost in the narrative and then showed back up? Because I don't know where he was. Like, I scanned for Matt's name on those pages while they're running in the forest with Tom, and then Tom kills a bunch of Trollocs, and then they get to the boat, and I'm like, where did Matt go?
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden they're just sitting downstairs and Matt produces a coin and I'm like, oh, there you are. Where were you for the past 3 pages?
Yep. Let's get into why they were separated. So we've gotten just about everything in Shadow Logoth other than leaving Shadow Logoth.
The Mashadar.
Yeah. So they're on their way out.
Evil fog.
When Lan shows up at the end of Moraine's story time, he brings news of Trollocs being forced to enter the city at the hands of Myrddraal. And they're like, okay, well, we need to go. We need to cross the river. Trollocs and Myrddraal can't swim. Yeah. So we at least will buy ourselves a little bit of time there. And they're leaving, and eventually a small tendril of fog crosses. And Moraine's like, whatever you do, stop. Do not touch that. You will die.
Yeah, it's kind of like acid fog in the mist. It's very Stephen King.
Later, so they split up, and they kind of get scattered by the fog. It starts, like, cutting the group into pieces. Not literally, but figuratively.
It did literally cut some Trollocs and a Myrddraal into pieces.
Yeah, it killed Trollocs and Myrddraal fast. And earlier, when Lan killed the Myrddraal by decapitating it, which is quite the feat.
There was a moment where Tom was like, it won't die until
nightfall.
Until nightfall?
Yeah. Mashadar just kills it.
Okay, so that was not just Tom was being dumb, and that's not like, is that an actual thing with Myrddraal? Is that they don't die?
They don't die until the night that they are killed. The night of the day they're killed.
Wasn't it nighttime when he was killed?
It was, and I'm not 100% certain that...
Or was it like a twilight? So
no, it was nighttime, because Mashadar only comes out at night.
No, I mean when the first Myrddraal was
killed. It was daytime.
Okay.
So I don't know if like you kill a Myrddraal at night, if it just dies right then, or if you have to wait like a full day. Or if, like, it's just a length of time thing. But Myrddraal touches Mashadar and dies. Like,
obliterated.
Real quick.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of Trollocs that go with it. And it's bad for them.
Yeah, that was another detail we picked up, and I'm not sure if we explicitly mentioned it, but that the second a Myrddraal dies, the Trollocs that follow it die.
Yeah. Kind of like a White Walker in the Whites in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Very similar. Not always, but similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mashadar's fucked up. It, like, boils them alive.
The Mist, Stephen King.
Yeah, and they get separated. And this is when we get different points of view. Pretty quickly when this happens, we are shifted over to Perrin's point of view.
And he finds Egwene.
He finds Egwene briefly.
Briefly, because they're running, and Egwene's not keeping up, because...
Bella is not fast.
Not fast. And then Perrin just rides off a cliff.
Poor, slow Perrin.
I'm worried for his horse. That horse is probably dead.
The horse probably is dead.
Because, like, a horse doesn't usually survive that kind of fall.
No. Perrin barely survives. Perrin, like...
almost drowns.
He almost drowns. He considers just, like, stripping in the river, which would be a weird thing to run up on. Just, like, Perrin naked on a river.
I mean, Perrin's probably hot, so...
Probably.
He's got all those muscles.
Yeah, so Perrin dunks himself into a river.
He loses his cloak, but then manages to not have to shed anything else. Which, like, it sucks that he has to lose his cloak, but also his cloak would have been wet, so it's not like it would have provided him all that much warmth. Yeah. He keeps his shoes, though, which is important, and his axe.
Yes, he
Because
takes
like
the axe.
if you need things, shoes and an axe.
Yeah, nothing else. No clothes.
Because he's and it, like
nowhere to store the axe.
In his point of view, like you get this moment of like him thinking, which is clearly very much like it shows that he's not a person who doesn't. Like it shows that he's a person that does think things through.
Right.
Because he's trying to figure out what to shed off of himself that would be the most prudent. He's like, obviously the cloak's got to go, and then he's like, I should drop my axe, but I don't want to go up onto a shore and then be empty-handed. Like, what am I gonna do against a Trolloc with my fists?
Right.
And then he's like, and I also need shoes, so I just hope I don't drown until I get to shore.
Yeah.
He's kind of makes that point of like, what's the point of being alive
if I'm just gonna
get killed because I don't have shoes or an axe?
Right.
Like, Perrin thinks things through.
Yeah. The next point of view we get is Nynaeve's, and this is actually the end of the section.
Yes. So we get Nynaeve, and she wasn't being hunted by Trollocs because the Trolloc kind of looks her right in the face, and then it's like, and then nopes right out of there.
Yeah.
And so she's going about, and she sneaks up on Lan again, which just...
That's a running thing now.
If she sneaks up on Lan enough times, I might just start, like, low-key being like, there's something there. I don't know. I'm desperate. Okay. I'm desperate for ships.
Okay. I mean, we've been introduced to shockingly few characters who stick around for an epic fantasy series.
Yeah. So she sneaks up on them, and then Moraine ends up tapping into that extra sense that she can use to sense Nynaeve is there, because Nynaeve can channel the one power.
Yep.
She is an Aes Sedai, sort of like Egwene.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where some of Lan's respect is obviously like, damn, you're good at tracking and sneaking.
Do you think he can sense it too?
I don't think that. Because he's surprised. He wouldn't be surprised if he could sense it.
No, but like, he might not have the sense of being able to know where she is, but do you think he can just sense that there's some, like, she's not just a wisdom, or...
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because again, he's surprised.
That's fair. He does kind of have this instant respect for her, though, which he doesn't have for Egwene.
No, he definitely doesn't, because he treats Egwene like a kid, and he treats Nynaeve like a woman.
Yes, he treats Egwene sort of the same way he treats the boys, in that, like, she doesn't understand what's happening. And he says the same type of stuff to Nynaeve as well, like, you don't understand what's at stake here. But he says it in a way that is like, you don't understand this specific thing that's at stake, not that you don't understand what it's like to have something at stake, which is how he treats the rest of the Emmonsfielders. It's like, you don't even know what the words at stake mean, much less know why this is a big thing.
I think for him at this point, Nynaeve, his, like, I guess, friendship hierarchy is like Moraine all the way at the top, like 1,000.
Yep.
Somewhere below that and above the Emmonsfielders, who I think Matt is at the bottom. Nynaeve, so it's Moraine, then Nynaeve, and then Tom.
I would have put Tom below the Emmonsfielders because he clearly doesn't like Tom.
No, but he thinks Tom is a competent adult.
But if we're just talking like friendship-wise, I think he likes the Emmonsfielders more than Tom.
Okay, that might be fair.
But competency-wise,
Tom is
competent.
Yeah, Tom is competent.
He's a competent human.
And then I think Egwene, Rand, and Perrin are all on the same tier, and then there's Matt, just slightly below. Not a huge amount below, but just slightly.
I think because he can sense, even though, like, every time the boys all get in trouble, they all kind of jointly take fault for it. They're like...
They're really good about not being snitches.
Yeah. They've clearly been doing it for 16, 17 years, where Matt's been getting them in trouble for 17 years, but they're all just taking the fall for it.
Yeah, because in Emmonsfield, they all do anyway.
Yeah, I think Lan just can sense somewhere that Matt is the reason they're all getting in trouble. But I think he might also have some sort of appreciation for the bond that Rand and Perrin have with Matt. So they're like, he can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Like, he's friends with these other people for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, like...
So, the other bit of information, so there's something going on in between Lan and Nynaeve here. But the other thing we get is Nynaeve's ability to channel. And we get a little bit more about what it's like to be someone who can channel before they become an Aes Sedai.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of information. So Moraine goes through this whole thing about how, like, the signs that Nynaeve would have noticed in her early years.
Yeah.
To kind of prove that, like, I'm not just saying that you can channel the one power. I'm guessing parts about your backstory.
Just like accurately. She wanted something the first time that she channeled, a time when she wanted something, and she literally thought she couldn't exist without it. In this case, it was healing Egwene. After that, a little while after that, she had, she kind of lists off a bunch of like symptoms, and she's like, this, it happens in different orders, but every time it does, it happens closer and closer to the time that you channel until it doesn't happen anymore.
And that's when the clock starts.
Right.
Like, if you don't start to learn how to channel it then, between 1 to 5 years, because she said, like, I've seen people be able to go 5 years without learning how to channel it, but they all die. And
not all of them. About 75% of them die.
And once the dying starts, you can't stop it.
Right. And so some of the symptoms were like weird, unexplained fevers and shaking.
That end very quickly.
Like unexplained recklessness.
Yeah.
There's a third one, too. I don't remember what the third one is, but there's a third one. What? You're giving me a face.
Unexplained recklessness. Rand had some unexplained recklessness.
Rand was being pretty reckless in Fairlawn. That's true.
I'm going to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, how unexplained was that, though? He was with Matt. They were also all pretty reckless when they went to follow a guy named Mordeath.
I'm just saying that, like, it's a thing to look out for, because men can channel the one power too.
They can.
And who's to say that these symptoms don't also apply to men?
That's true.
We don't know.
Yeah, Moraine wouldn't. There aren't very many men who could channel, and all of them go insane, and they're not, like, looking out for, like, once they know a man can channel, they're not, like, studying them to find out, like, hey, are you experiencing the same symptoms? Yeah, they're kind of like, you need to go. You need to go
in some manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nynaeve, like, they go through all this stuff with Nynaeve, and the last little moment with Lan is that, like, they're trying to figure out leaving.
Where to go. Now that they are all
Nynaeve
separated.
really wants to go look for Egwene and Perrin and all of them, and I think they're trying to go south, which means they're going to look for Perrin, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's one, he's the only one who didn't give his frickin' coin away.
Yep, so it turns out the coins were tracking devices, little Aes Sedai GPS.
Fair. I also wonder, does Tom know that, and that's why he's pissed that they got rid of their silver coins?
I think Tom's just frugal.
I think he's just frugal, too.
Tom's just like, why pay when I can play?
But so they're trying to figure out where to go, and Nynaeve's very much like, I want to look for Egwene. Yeah. And then Moraine's like, she's not going to come with us. And Nynaeve's like, yes, I am. And Lan is just instantly very respectful of Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Which Nynaeve finds suspicious, but he says Nynaeve's name, and there was a moment where it's like there was an implied Sedai after.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, aw, Lan. And Nynaeve's like, nah, bitch. Like, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Like, let him be nice.
Which, small interesting thing here. Here we kind of realize that Sedai is also a title.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't
I figured
really...
that out, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like
Moraine Sedai.
Yeah. It's kind of like, instead of Madam, or like Madam, or like...
Yeah, Miss or Mrs.
Mrs.
It's Moraine Sedai.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like that it's a title.
Yeah. But that's that moment of, like, he just takes Moraine's word. Like,
yeah,
Moraine's like, hey, you could be an Aes Sedai. And Lan's like, cool, she's an Aes Sedai now.
All right.
All right. He's just very much like, I'm going to take my woman for her word.
Yep.
Go, Lan, go.
So we leave off with them heading south, presumably after Perrin.
I do have one last question about that.
Yeah?
So, Nynaeve is able to sense Egwene, which is how she was able to find them at the inn.
Yep.
Why can't she just use that now to find Egwene?
Well, now she knows about it.
So, like...
Everything she was doing before was she didn't know she could channel. So everything she was doing before was subconscious. And there's if I had to guess, there's probably something about how she survived being able to channel that stops her from consciously using the one power.
But now maybe she can to try to find Egwene.
Maybe.
Because I wouldn't put that past her.
Maybe.
It's like...
We'll have to find out.
I healed you, now I can find you.
Yeah.
So, now we're going to our recurring segments.
Yes.
Which has so far just been favorite moments, but now there's some other things going on, so we're adding a few. Updates on the creepy aura readings that were from the last section.
Good old Min.
Good old Min. So I'm just gonna, like, if I find them as we continue reading, I'll point out that I've found them. So in this section, Matt picked up a dagger, which, like I said, I assume is the dagger with the ruby that Min saw.
Yeah.
And then Nynaeve mentions something, or not Nynaeve, Moraine mentions something about Lan being marked as a warder from birth.
Was it marked as it wasn't marked as a warder, it was marked as fighting the shadow.
To me, right now, that's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
I don't know too much about the warders, so I'm just going to assume that that's what that means for now.
Yeah.
I'll read and maybe I'll change my mind on that. But so he's basically been marked as a warder from birth, which they do by literally giving a baby a sword. So it wasn't some sort of metaphor. He was literally just a baby with a sword, which is where that image came from.
Super cool thing for babies to have, swords. I mean, what do they can't do much. They can't lift it, so that it's not that big of a threat as long as it has a sheath.
Oh, see, I was just imagining a little baby sword.
No, I think it was a full size. I mean, it's Lan. It was a full size sword, and maybe he was able to wield it as an infant. Because it's Lan.
It's Lan.
So the other bit, the next recurring segment, ship updates. Any ship updates? Seems like Rand and Egwene are a little bit more on stable ground now.
So there's nothing necessarily new this week. I'm desperate for ships, so if Lan and Nynaeve continue to have moments, I'm sure that's going to go up there.
Do you think that could end up as like a love triangle between Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve?
Possibly.
That'd be one contentious triangle.
Or they're just like, hey, let's all just have the free love. I don't know. That's a possible ship. And then I'm still on the Rand and Egwene need to get their shit together, and Moraine and Lan trains.
Okay.
I haven't decided if Moraine and Lan, if it's a romantic ship or just like a platonic, like, I haven't decided if it's like a slash or an and on AO3. There's a difference between those two.
Okay.
Slash is for romantic ships and is for friendship ships.
Okay.
If you're reading on AO3, tag your fics properly.
All right. Last recurring segment. Favorite moments. Dallas, what were your favorite moments? Or favorite moment?
Mine, I think, were Rand doing all of the awkward dancing with Moraine. I just loved the line. I typed it out so I could read it. If he had thought he was stumble-footed with the wisdom, it was nothing to how he felt with the Aes Sedai. She glided smoothly, her gown swirling about her. He almost fell twice.
Rand suddenly has 2 left feet.
Loved it.
Yep.
Favorite moment.
All right. My favorite moment was pretty much the whole encounter with Mordeth. It was just really cool. And it's really cool to see it's like a third thing, right? Like you have the Dark One and they have Trollocs and like all sorts of weird unexplained shit. You have the Aes Sedai who can channel the one power, and then you just have Mordeth there being real creepy just because he's super shitty.
He is kind of the in-between of, like, he doesn't like the Aes Sedai and doesn't like the Trollocs.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, the whole thing, Mordeth and Mashadar was born out of hating the shadow so much that it consumes you.
But they also hate the thing trying to fight the shadow.
I don't think Mordeth has a specific hate of Aes Sedai. Mordeth just wants what he wants, and he just sees people as an ends to a means.
Yeah.
Like Aes Sedai, not Aes Sedai, whatever. I mean, he might be a little bit scared of Aes Sedai because the one power is the one power.
Terrifying.
But he wasn't specifically upset because of Moraine. He was just upset because he thought those 3 were there alone. I don't even think he mentioned Aes Sedai or Tarvalin.
No, he just said Moraine. No, they did mention Tarvalin because they said
they did, but he didn't. Mordeth had no reaction.
Just that you're not alone.
Yeah, and then suddenly
it's like I can't kidnap you and
right. So that was chapters 17 through 21. Next episode, 2 weeks from now, will be the next section, chapters 22 through 27. We're all split up now.
Multiple POVs.
Yes, we get to learn more about more people. We're not just living in Rand's head. All right, this was Not the Beginning, episode 4. Bye.
Bye.